What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 687 of the Smark Moment Smack Talk Hot Tags of the Week. I'm Tony Mango, joined as always by Robert E. Felice.
Hey!
And Callum Wiggins.
Hello.
And all of you. So all of you have a responsibility to leave your comments below and tell us what you have to say about these topics because you're not on the actual microphones to be able to chime in during this discussion. We always want to know what you guys have to say. So if you are on the Discord server or you're on Facebook or you're on Twitter, it's always going to be Twitter to me. Screw you, the person who owns that. It's not X. And the whole setup that we have on smarkandmoment.com, of course, is a great way for you to leave your comments. And also, of course, if you are on YouTube, then all the better. Drop a comment below. Make sure that you hit the like button. Make sure you are subscribed. Ring the notification bell. Get those email alerts for things like the Royal Rumble post show. Whoops, that's predictions. The thing that I put up on there. Wrong graphic on there. But yeah, we have the Royal Rumble post show immediately following the pay-per-view tomorrow afternoon/night. Seems like it's probably going to end around 10 o'clock or so. So I guess it's like tomorrow afternoon we'll start. Tomorrow night will end. About a 6-hour show overall, if you count the 2 hours of the pre-show. But keep that in mind. Make sure that you are also showing your support, if you can, by tossing a little spare change our way with the thanks button or clicking on the join button, joining the Patreon tiers. They're all the same. Redbubble and TeePublic is where you get your merchandise. But if you want to get the Darkcast tier and all those things, then that is the best way to do that is on YouTube and all. We will eventually come back around to another Darkcast and do our whole Royal Rumble thing that we had done before with the matchmaker side of things. So if you're interested in see what those pay-per-view cards are, then stay tuned when we record that in, I don't know, sometime next week, I guess. Marketplace stuff out of the way, pay-per-view point stuff we'll come back around to because I do want to get the last call predictions for Rob and for Callum about the Royal Rumble, but let's talk about some hot tags that are unrelated to that first and kind of run down the weekly news as we have it. A little quick thing here. Big E has joined the cast for Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. As far as I'm aware, there hasn't been information about what character he's playing. Now, I have not watched this show yet. I haven't been hearing good things about it, and it doesn't look particularly great to me. But I always like the idea of Big E doing anything, especially if it's a crossover for some kind of Marvel-related thing or so. My gut would tell me Big E would probably be a really good cast for somebody like Tombstone or maybe Kingpin if they wanted to do something like that. He's got a rough enough voice. I don't know if they have somebody for Sandman already. Maybe that could work. Maybe Scorpion.
I have him pegged for Rhino.
I completely forgot about Rhino. Rhino could, if they don't go into the super Russian side of things, then Rhino could work for that too. Have you watched the show yet? Did you check it out?
I have not.
I'm probably going to binge it this weekend. If
Well, there's only a couple episodes, remember?
Oh, that's right. They're not doing the whole... Yeah. All right. Well, 2 episodes or however much it is. I guess I'll check them out on well, I would say I'll check them out tomorrow, but 4 o'clock is when the Royal Rumble starts, so I'm not going to start watching that at, whatever.
If
I
you
guess
woke
I'll check
up at
them
a
out
normal
Sunday.
hour, you could, but... You won't.
When you go to bed at 7 a.m, you don't wake up at a normal hour. So I guess shout outs to Big E for that. I wish we could say that we would see him tomorrow at the Royal Rumble, but I don't think that's going to be the case. You mentioned this before when we were trying to figure out some extra topics to talk about. Stephanie McMahon has an ESPN show. What's going on with that?
Yeah, so she's got a new show called Stephanie's Places. I believe this is a spin-off of another thing that they're doing on ESPN, but she has been on the Pat McAfee show this week. She's actually been quite all over the place this week, which may indicate that she's kind of feeling ready to get back out there in terms of doing something with WWE. But all she says is, this is what she told Pat McAfee, in partnership with Omaha Productions, ESPN, and WWE, it's part of Peyton's Places, and it's called Stephanie's Places. I'm going all around the country and hopefully the world to find out the stories behind the biggest stars in WWE. That'll probably be fun. You don't have ESPN Plus, so you'll never see it.
No. Plus, I'm not particularly interested in the idea about like Stephanie goes around and does that. I've never really liked travel-based shows, and I got a feeling that the WWE star side of it wouldn't be particularly like scandalous or interesting or whatever. But there's more of a chance that I would watch it than Callum. I'll say. I'm sure that you won't be checking that out, Callum, right?
No, I'm waiting for her business documentary series on how philanthropy is the new form of marketing.
Oh, that era is gone now. I don't know if we'll ever get to that point.
Well, good for her to be doing that. Like I said, I'm not planning on watching it, but Stephanie is somebody that I do think could be useful in some different ways, and if they were to bring her back into the company in one way or another, I'd be interested to hear what they would potentially have in mind. That's all sort of, I guess, still kind of like she said a little bit about how she had left, and it was vague enough that didn't really give any kind of an answer as far as what I had read.
You gave the most human answer. Like, I wanted to disappear for a while, so I did.
Yeah,
okay.
And it's like, that's
okay.
Not exactly answering it. It's like, yeah, I was gone. You're like, and okay, we're just not gonna. Okay.
One of the rare instances where Hunter is actually a little better at explaining this, where he'll go, yeah, guys, she's been doing this literally her whole adult life. She wanted a break and she wanted to go be with the kids. And Stephanie just goes, I felt like disappearing.
Don't we all, Stephanie? Isn't that the thing? Aren't we all just wanting to disappear at this point? We know like a little bit more about the LFG show, like when that's going to come out and everything. I'll check that out, but I don't think I'm going to check out the ESPN thing.
February 16th for LFG, by the way.
Yeah, it's something that I'm interested in because it seems like it's kind of a little bit like Tough Enough and all, but they haven't bothered to actually really like do any promotion for it. And like, here are like the people that you're going to see on this show, like in a way that would stand out to me. It's more so if I hadn't done the fucking work, I wouldn't even know this show existed. And I'm sure a lot of other people don't either. So, we'll see about that. I have no plans on playing the next 2K game, but for people that are interested in the cover art and everything, now we know some more information about that. We can see that. The variety of different color covers that they have. There's the Bloodline version with like the family tree, Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman on like the standard edition, I guess it is.
The one you'll see in stores.
Yeah.
If you still buy physical games, will be Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman on the cover.
It's so weird to me how much that has been a thing where like, we're going to have multiple covers of a game. Well, only one of them is the physical game, so it's really only one cover, but we're going to say that the other ones have other covers for the digital release. And then I look at things like WWE advertising that trading card game of some kind, and it's like, get your digital trading cards. It's like, a digital trading card is not a thing. That's an image. It's just a JPEG. It's not like you have a physical thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm too old school.
I think there should be an option for, turning those digital cards into physical cards.
For the people that actually would do, I mean, I've never was like a card collector as it was. The closest thing I ever did with that is the Pokemon cards, but I was never super into that. But people like the tangible things, and I'm going to get off my soapbox as an old man and not continue to, just bitch and complain about all these things are digital these days when I'm exactly the opposite when it comes to a lot of other things where I'm like, I kind of wish I could just get rid of all my DVDs and just put them all on Plex. And
yeah, I would argue that you should never do that. I think this world is showing us you need to hold on to physical media before they get rid of random stuff and you just don't have access.
That is true. I know that, like, different cover people for different things. Sometimes it's like, hey, this person makes the most amount of sense. I don't know if I would necessarily have gone with Roman this year, but then again, I don't know who I would have gone with instead. And the cover looks fine to me. What do you guys think about it?
I think Roman's a great choice for cover star. He should have been the cover star of the last 5 years when you think about the run he's had. I think one of the weird issues with the solo cover star deal is that you kind of miss moments where, Roman should have been the cover star of the game at some point during the 1,000 days of which he held the championship. Glad they're getting around to it, don't get me wrong, but it feels like that should have been done.
The cover itself looks all right. I think that it's I think it's got a nice little perspective to it of Roman at the front of it, and then also in the background with Heyman praying on the outside. I guess that kind of means they can't really split them up too soon, at least until the game's released. But yeah, I'd say Roman's as good a choice as any to be the cover star for the main game, because he is probably, alongside Cody, the most recognisable main roster name in WWE right now. So I don't see I don't see harm in picking him over anybody else, especially when Cody was last year's one. So
if you were to be just casually looking at stuff at GameStop or something, do you guys think that this would catch your eye and make you go, I think I'll pick up that game?
Yeah, I think it's impossible for me to put myself into a hypothetical where I don't know what WWE is. Arguably, with most people, they're going to see the logo and go, I remember WWE, I'll pick that up. If they're going to pick it up at all.
Yeah, to be fair, the thing that would prevent me from picking this up in a game store is the logo in the top left hand corner of the cover, rather than the fact that Roman Reigns is on it or not. So
yeah, I mean, I don't remember the last pro wrestling game that I owned, but I think it was Warzone. Again, dating myself, because I just don't find them particularly fun. So to me, whether this was any kind of wrestling game, I'd immediately just be like, all right, I'm probably not going to like the mechanics of it. But, I mean, a lot of people really, really love them. It seems like the most fun aspect about it would be like the create a character customization, run your own thing, kind of like what Peyton used to do with the Mega Powers, the whole Twitch channel and everything. But let us know what you guys think. If you leave a comment below. Is that going to be the cover, like pro or con buying this or something?
I do want to say one cool thing about the Bloodline Edition cover, which is, hey man, like a year ago, Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga and even Tangaloa, for all of his mistakes, they weren't even in the company, and now they're on the cover of a video game. That's not a bad year.
Yeah, I mean, that to me is more so what I would like. I'd like them to do more group covers, and like maybe they could have had The Rock and Roman and
Rock
everybody.
Not being on the cover is shocking to me.
Pretty much, I thought like a guarantee that he would be on it. So, cool for Paul Heyman though. He gets to say he's on a cover of a video game.
Yeah,
for a manager, Okay, let's switch over to this topic then. WWE has announced a couple different shows going forward, and one of them is a show that's going to be in Paris, August 31st in Paris, France, is Clash in Paris. They didn't really try that hard on that one. Look, they used the Clash at the Castle graphic and logo and all, and they just said, good enough, fuck you. I'm very disappointed in the name, because to me, You could go with so many other types of things.
You could have found a better name. I mean, we can get into semantics, and Callum will absolutely at some point hit us with the "it's just a name."
Right.
But I saw this one going around. No Mercy, but it's Mercy like you. Like,
I like that a lot.
You have options, and you have Clash in Paris. Okay, cool.
If they want to go with the alliteration, like Clash at the Castle, Bash in Berlin, look at what's staring them right in the face. Payback in Paris.
Yeah, I didn't even think about Payback, which they already own the name to.
Yeah.
I was thinking of like Peril in Paris, or
yeah,
I had thought of a few different ones. No Mercy being my favorite one that I saw pop up. But yeah, Payback in Paris does sound perfectly fine.
Perfectly fine in Paris. I don't like the name, whatever, but that's one thing. I'm sure the people in France won't care about the name. They're just going to be excited about going to a show. And I don't have anybody that stands out to me as being like, okay, this person should headline that show, or this person needs to be in the title match or something. Is there anything that you guys can think of that would be like Paris themed, or, kind of French related content that they should target towards this?
No, which is good in some ways, because I don't love that it became, well, we're going to Scotland, so we got to get Alba Fire and Isla Dawn on TV, even though we don't want to use them. So they don't have that crutch for this one, so it'll be fun to see how they get around that.
I guess they could do a ladder match with the ladders dressed dressed up like the Eiffel Tower. do tables matches, but they look like the Arc de Triomphe or something instead.
I like this.
Instead of the kendo sticks being like painted to be candy canes or something, they're baguettes. Yeah, exactly.
You do like a something on a pole match, but it's a beret.
They bring back Money in the Bank, but it's Mon Oui.
Oh, this is the perfect thing to bring La Resistance just in for a one-off.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Rene Dupree comes back. He's gonna win everything.
What other French wrestlers are there actually?
The Rougeaus were French. Well, French Canadian.
Well, they're French.
Oh,
yeah,
PCO come back.
Yeah, all these people we're talking about are French Canadian, and like there's no actual.
Yeah, like French.
Actual French wrestler. Maybe Sylvester Lefort back in the NXT days.
Oh.
Sylvester Lefort. That sounds familiar. Oh shit. Okay, yeah, now I remember his name.
What happened to his friend, the one that got shaved bald?
Marcus Louis.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got shaved bald, and then they were like, all right, well, we're going to release you.
Yeah. No, he did a thing for like 2 weeks where he was stalking people, and then they were like,
This is where the Saudi group that had been like requesting Yokozuna and stuff would be like, hey, whatever happened to that Andre the Giant?
He was French.
But I'd say you could probably do something big with Kevin Owens next. Kevin Owens does speak fluent French, so as a French Canadian, he can talk to the crowd more fluently than most people on the roster could.
So could Sammy, so they'll probably be in a big spot for that show.
Yeah, you get Maurice if she wanted to do something with the Miz.
Yeah, that'd be good to get Maurice on the show and do something. I don't know if she's like up for wrestling anymore, but maybe the host of the show or something. Yeah, that'd be cool. Put her on the pre-show panel or something at the very least.
You know, you just joked about Andre. What if they saved the Battle Royal for there?
Oh, shit. I didn't think about that.
It's an option.
I don't like the idea. I like the idea if they don't do it for Mania, but I'd rather them. I still think that they should do it on the pre-show Mania, because I don't think pre-shows should be 2 hours of talking. But then again, that's never going to happen again, it seems. So I'd put it more either on SmackDown prior or the Raw after. But that could be something that they could do if they were thinking about moving that around and just being like, all right, well, in honor of the most famous French wrestler that we've ever had, let's do an Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal and make it like the 50-man thing or something if they wanted to. So keep that in mind. Anybody that's, I don't know if we necessarily have any listeners that are in France, but if you are going to France around that time, August 31st, get your tickets at the arena over there. A couple other things have been happening as far as like announcements for different shows. We now know who is headlining the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2025, and it is somebody who's already been inducted before. Triple H. Which, the way I wrote this out on my the post on EWN was, I'm not at all denying that Triple H is worthy of a Hall of Fame induction on his own. He, of course, if he had not been inducted by the whole DX thing, yeah, the guy's a multi-time champion more than almost anybody in the company history. He's been around for a bunch of eras. Like, there's no debate that he would be a Hall of Famer at all. But I hate when they do double Hall of Fame people, and I especially hate it when it's like, hey guys, isn't this cool? Triple H gets to be inducted. Isn't that such an honor? And it's like, yeah, you did.
Well, to be fair, this is the first time they're doing the guy going in solo after the group induction. Because Triple H was a given, unlike any of the other members who got inducted. You don't know if they're going to induct Road Dogg as a solo, or Billy, or Chyna, or X-Pac. But Triple H was a given. So this is the first time they're doing that, which makes it weird, but it makes sense. It's 30 years after his debut. It's, a major name that they can guarantee will be there.
Which that seems almost like it's a thing now. Like, are we just only going to get people who are like, Rey Mysterio, Paul Heyman, Triple H? Is next year just going to be like, all right, the headliner is, say, I don't know, like the Brothers of Destruction back again to do it because we can count on Undertaker to show up? Or like, we're just going to then re-induct Evolution and do that instead, or whatever. Like, what about The Rock? If you want to do somebody like,
well, clearly they can't count on him to be at WrestleMania this year.
What about Batista? What about
he's wanted to go in forever, and they put him in literally. It's just a matter of scheduling. They can't count on him to actually be there.
It's so crazy that it's not like, hey, next year, block off one day.
That's the problem, is they don't do anything for a day. It's, hey, can you block off the entire first quarter of the year so you can do fucking media for us?
It's ridiculous. Like, they should be just like, okay, can you do these 5 days, maybe even you call it. Do an episode of Raw, do the Hall of Fame, show up at WrestleMania, But I'm not the biggest fan of Triple H going in as the Hall of Famer this year when I have so many other people that I would be interested in seeing. Like, William Regal could have been the headliner for me,
No, he couldn't. See, he could be the headliner for me too, but is he going to be the headliner of the whole WWE Hall of Fame class?
To me, he would.
Shit, I mean, Paul Heyman should have headlined last year, and it was fucking...
Right.
It was The Rock's grandmother?
And, I still think that they have, like, a lot of other people. Like, I'd go more... Not, like, quantity over quality, but, like, to me, if you give me a class of Triple H and then a bunch of people that I don't care about, I'm going to be like, all right, I don't really need to watch Hall of Fame this year. But then if you give me a class that doesn't have the big headliner, but it's got like Lex Luger, Savio Vega, Chavo, Tommy Dreamer, like, all the Victoria, like all these people that, hell, Mickey James could be a headliner in my mind. And I'd be like, that's a hell of a class. Like Ken Shamrock, Finlay, like there's so many people that can go in, and it's just like, all right, well, so far the only person we know is the person who's already been inducted.
That's the problem with everything needing to be like a spectacle, and it can't just be, hey, we found some cool people who aren't in yet. It doesn't matter if they didn't have the greatest careers of all time. You know, like, I don't know if we'll ever see that happen where it's like, okay, you can get a Ken Shamrock in. You can get a Finley in, and it doesn't have to be like, yeah, but you gotta have like an Undertaker every year or something like that.
Now, I know that you're not going to be watching the Hall of Fame, Callum, but any thoughts on Triple H going in there in this kind of capacity? Is this just like, well, who cares? Or like, or is it like a, you know, this is the best option because now is the only time you could do it without it being a little bit weird to induct him later down the line? Because I've heard some people say that they're like, well, it would be more awkward if they just wait 4 years and then do it.
I don't know why it would be so much more awkward to wait a little bit longer. I mean, at this rate, Vince McMahon is never going to get into the Hall of Fame based on the recent stuff.
And so they fully Benoit him.
Yes, they completely missed the boat on that one. So I guess unless they're hedging their bets on things coming out with Triple H later in his life, which I assume wouldn't, but you know. But it's more of a case of right now, WWE product is hot, and he's the one that's directly tied to the creative revival of the promotion, even though realistically it's tied to Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns and the entire bloodline stuff. But I think that then I think this is the time that he'd get the most goodwill for going in before, you know, the 5-6 year mark of his creative run hits and WWE started to stagnate again by that point.
And I'll go ahead and even say not only that, but it kind of gets it out of the way. Unlike the whole Vince thing where every year you had to hear the weird, well, don't mention Vince. Vince doesn't want to be thanked. You know, it's like, let's just get Triple H's solo flowers. Let's do it now. And then, you know, you don't have to revisit a Triple H induction 7 years down the line when people are sick of him, potentially.
I don't think the double induction thing really matters too much as well. They've already set the precedent with that before. So I think people, when the DX were inducted, there's probably a good number of people that were just like only really interested in seeing Shawn or Hunter go in anyway. And so I think just seeing Triple H go in on his own would be like fine for most people anyway. So yeah, I don't see an issue with them doing that or think that like diminishes. Well, it should diminish it, but they've already set the precedent multiple times beforehand. So in that respect, like, you know, to joke Hall of Fame anyway. So they can just decide who they want to put in, and he's a worthy enough headliner based on their metrics.
I wonder when Stephanie's going in. Talked about her earlier.
Shouldn't be going in on her acting performance based on the video they put out about it.
We also know more information about Stand and Deliver now. It took them long enough. You know, we're the day before the Royal Rumble, and we finally know when they're going to do Stand and Deliver for sure, and like the logo and everything.
Did this come out officially, or was just the Fightful report?
No, they have information on the website and everything now.
Oh, good.
They actually have like the logo and all, which that's actually pretty interesting to me. It's something I want to talk about. But it's going to be the same setup that it's, you know, typically been before, where it's going to be Saturday afternoon on the same day as day one of WrestleMania. You know, for a while we were calling it night 1 and night 2 of WrestleMania, but it seems like they're very firmly on WrestleMania Saturday, WrestleMania Sunday, like Super Bowl Sunday kind of a thing. So, NXT Stand and Deliver is grouped together the same as just being the WWE logo again. So again, just WWE Stand and Deliver, really. I'm still labeling things NXT for the time being because I think people are.
So is everybody else. They're not. They don't even call them like Vengeance Day. Is still being called NXT Vengeance Day.
Yeah, so it's like we're in that transitional period, but this logo has the little, like, you know, I mean, this is Las Vegas, so you were going to try to do some kind of Vegas themed thing. And they went very basic on it. It's just got an X in the background. It's got the 4 suits that you would normally get in cards, the clubs, spades, hearts, and diamonds.
So you both can call me out on reading way too much into a logo, but we're getting a lot of TNA involvement at this Stand and Deliver. That's very that kind of Ultimate X Division kind of logo. I don't know. I think they might get a lot of TNA in this.
I don't think that this will point towards that, but that would be if they want to do something special for Stand and Deliver, throwing all the TNA people in there could be a good way to get people that are, hey, it's WrestleMania weekend. We got all these TNA people too, for anybody that's interested in that. My first reaction before I realized that it was okay, well, it's got these 4 suits because it's in Las Vegas. I was like, I wonder if they're going to go with some kind of a gambling theme. And then I was trying to think about Double or Nothing, whatever. And I'm like, oh, you freaking idiot. It's because it's in Vegas, Of course it's got that in the background. Everything else does too. The WrestleMania logo's got actual cards on it. Yeah, okay, that's nothing special. So, I think that they're hammering down on the X just because it's that's the easiest logo. This is a pretty standard logo. And that's fine enough.
I like it. I think it's one of the better ones.
Still not the biggest fan of that name, but it seems like they like it. So
yeah. I'm not the biggest fan of the name as the show of shows.
Yeah, that's their WrestleMania is called Stand and Deliver. I don't know. To me, that always reads as what am I filling out? Something on Grubhub, drop it off at the front, no interaction thing, Stand and Deliver or something. But I'm the guy that says Breaking Point shouldn't have gotten rid of. They shouldn't have gotten rid of Breaking Point. I'm the one that says Fully Loaded would be a great show to bring back. So, at least we know that that's the standard setup. Hall of Fame after SmackDown, Stand and Deliver the next afternoon, morning, WrestleMania Saturday that night, and usual kind of schedule that we've got going on there. At this point, I don't know who I would be saying would be watch out for these people to be headlining that, because there is part of me that thinks that Trick Williams and Obafemi and all are going to have their match prior to this, but it kind of seems like it might be them as well. Speaking of that, let's talk about some TV stuff. Let's actually go do NXT first, because it's easier to knock that out since it has nothing to do with the Royal Rumble and all. The most interesting thing that happened on NXT this week, from my perspective at least, was at the very, very end of the whole thing, which was that they had the setup, finale of the whole thing, cuts to those, was it SMPTE, I think, or whatever, color bars that happen when you want to say that it's technical difficulties and whatever. And that said WWE Transmission, and then it just says Vengeance Day after backspaced and whatever.
They deleted the words NXT Transmission and it said Vengeance Day. I just completely spitballing. I think it's either Cardona or Sami Callihan. I'll explain Sami Callihan first. He had a hacker gimmick in NXT. They have a relationship with TNA. Why not? Cardona, I just think it's way overdue for him to be on WWE TV or AEW TV or something beyond GCW and TNA.
I don't really have any theories yet, because it seems like it would just point to somebody's either returning or somebody's going to debut on Vengeance Day, and the card right now for Vengeance Day I think is a little bit fluid too. We know some of what we're getting. We're getting Stephanie Vaquer is going to go up against Fallon Henley for the NXT Women's North American Championship. There's a triple threat match for the NXT Women's title, Julia, Bailey, and Roxanne Perez, but it kind of seems like Cora Jade might get thrown in there too.
No.
You don't think that they're going to do anything with that?
No, I just think that was a way to like start separating Roxanne and Cora, because Cora is going to be spending time in TNA.
Could be. I think that there's a chance as well that Trick Williams gets added to the current triple threat, Austin Theory and Grayson Waller and Oba Femi, because they are going to have a tag team match next week. Femi and Trick Williams are going to team up against A-Town Down Under. I could see it being like, okay, if you two can work together and win, then you earn your way into there, some kind of means. But that could also just be, again, like a means to stall and then have Oba Femi fight Trick Williams at Stand and Deliver.
I don't like that they rushed and threw a bunch of main roster people on the card just because it's theoretically the same day as Grand Slam, even though Grand Slam is going to be put on hours after Vengeance Day goes off the air.
What do you mean, like, as far as you don't think that they need to do a thing for, like, competition-wise?
Yeah, like, I don't think that they needed to throw, especially what they did. Like, Bailey's cool, because they've kind of been building that up, even though, my God, I really thought Roxanne was getting called up, but nope, not yet. But Oba Femi against A-Town Down Under, really?
It is weird, isn't it? Like, why those two, and why do you need to have those two in, like, basically a handicap match against Oba Femi, where, look, Oba Femi is built in a way that, like, they could have him win a handicap match, essentially, but I don't know if I would sacrifice those two for that role. I think that that's better suited for people that are lower on the card, or, like, I don't know. I'd rather have Oba Femi beat the three members of Gallus, for instance. Not that I want to see that match necessarily, but still odd to me. And that actually made me take them out of my Royal Rumble predictions. I was like, if that's what they're going to be focusing on right now, I guess they're not going to be in the Royal Rumble. Maybe I'm wrong about that. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But as far as like what the Vengeance Day teaser thing would be, when I look at the roster, there's nobody that makes sense to me that would be like, okay, well, this is a signal that like Javier Bernal would be back, which I think he wrestled like for the LFG thing or something beforehand. Or like, all right, well, those color bars, they definitely mean Saquon Sugars is going to have his debut or whatever. So I'm completely up in the air when it comes to that side of things. And there's nobody that I can think of that really is like, I saw some people being like, oh, that's the hacker gimmick, so that means Mustafa Ali. I don't think so.
He did just sign with TNA, and that would be hysterical if it's just him. Like, I want my North American title shot. But no, the only other name I can think of would be Alexander. Josh Alexander. Because I believe that's around the time that his free agency begins. And I'd rather it be a big name than, hey, it's the return of, I don't know, Kevin Thorne. Or it could be Aleister Black, but I still have him pegged on being Rumble.
I'm a little bit hesitant about that now. I'm second guessing him being in there. He's on my list, but yeah, again, we'll talk about that in a bit too. Out of just a pure random guess thing, anything you got in your mind, Callum, for if you see color bars and NXT Vengeance Day, it would be like, oh, that's, that seems like that would be a good spot for so-and-so or whatever.
No, not particularly.
I guess we're going to see what NXT Anonymous has to say about this. Maybe we're going to get feud between those. We're going to have the big NXT Anonymous and these color bars and the QR codes from the Wyatts and the GTV is all going to, the storyline's going to merge. Other things on NXT though that are worth just mentioning here and there. A lot of it really doesn't matter. Like the kind of repeating a lot of the same things. Like Izzy Dame has explained, I think, like 6 times now why she helped out Tony D'Angelo. They keep just going, so why did you do it? And she's like, well, because now we're even. It's like, I know. You said now we're even. But hold on. 4 other times.
I gotta have to stop you. This is the first I'd even heard that she'd helped Tony D'Angelo. I'd never saw her help Tony D'Angelo. I had no idea what this was.
You didn't see her kick Ridge Holland in the face in that North American title match?
No, that might have been the week that the ceiling was coming in on my room.
Yeah, I mean, so they've been doing a whole thing with her, with Damon. Adriana Rizzo were backstage with Sean Spears, and this Sean Spears and Izzy Dame thing. It seems like she thinks that he's a stalker and all. So Tony D helped her in that regard somehow or whatever. And the point is, they just keep repeating over and over, okay, well, now we're even. And it just seems like they don't really know where they're going on that front. And Eddie Thorpe was just cutting a promo of like, hey, I'm still going to do stuff. Was what it was. But a lot of this built around just setting up the Vengeance Day stuff. So we already mentioned it. The only other real thing I think is worth talking about is that Bianca Belair and Naomi retained the tag titles over Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson. So there goes that whole idea.
Atlanta said boo.
They were not a fan of that.
They were not happy. No, they were not happy.
No, not at all. So now we know that going forward, it seems like Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez are more likely to win those titles. And that already makes me go, they're probably going to win, and they're probably going to be in the tag title match at Mania. And I don't know.
Disappointing for Liv.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's not like she had a bad year. Yeah.
Yeah, but if it all
you'd rather her be in the world title match after she's held the world title for about 9 months of last year.
I mean, they have mid-card titles now.
I think the tag titles are probably worth more than the mid-card ones at this stage.
Fair enough.
The tag titles are currently held by Bianca Belair. The mid-card titles are held by Chelsea Green and Lyra Valkyria.
Plus, it's Raquel. Point. Raquel just needs to hover around tag titles perpetually, it seems.
She really does.
Maybe they'll hold it for more than a week. And she'll break her... she had like 4 different title reigns or something, and I think that they all kind of like don't even reach a full month. It's insane.
At least she has a back.
She does. They don't seem to be focusing on it all that much anymore, though. That's another thing. Let's see. Raw, we can kind of skip over a lot of that, but one thing to talk about on Raw, crazy spot with JD McDonagh. I thought at first that he was going to get diagnosed with a concussion, because he does this moonsault to the back, not to the back, moonsault to the outside, and was it Ivar, I believe, was like supposed to catch him, and it's just like, things don't go well 100% of the time, and JD ends up hitting the commentary table, and my first thought was, oh damn, he hit the back of his head. I ended up with like a punctured lung and like broken ribs or something.
Yeah.
And finished the match, so kudos to him for being tough enough to be able to do that.
Poor guy. I honestly, I'm so desensitized in some ways that I saw him go through all this, and I was just like, yeah, he got up, because we see them get up all the time. But yeah, that was a nasty, nasty spell.
It's one of those situations where you do give him plaudits for continuing the match, considering the severity of the injury, but then also say, yeah, you shouldn't allow someone to do that, even if they are willing to gut it out. You need to stop the match at that point.
Yeah, hopefully he heals up soon enough. I don't think he would have been in the Royal Rumble, so I don't think it's one of those things where they're like, crap, right before the Rumble, we'd have to cut you out of that. There's way too many people that need to get in there that aren't going to be in there, and I don't think they would have prioritized him, but it's going to probably go a long way in them being like, okay, tough guy, bonus points, kind of. I thought it was kind of interesting that Ludwig Kaiser was speaking to Pete Dunne in a backstage segment.
That excited me. Pete Dunne has done nothing but be like, I'm not Butch. I'm mad that you're calling me. So like him teaming with Kaiser, sure. Like, I'd watch them in tag matches against the War Raiders or, LWO or whatever. It's better than whatever Pete Dunne has been doing.
Mm-hmm. I don't think that there's a lot of other things going on for stuff that we haven't already talked about in some capacity, but yeah, like the 2K25 cover thing or whatever, the Drew McIntyre, Sami Zayn, et cetera, that stuff kind of went throughout the whole night, and it's sort of up in the air. But they did do this other thing about announcing some people and going into the whole, like, this person's declaring themselves the Royal Rumble and all that. Ivy Nile, Lyra Valkyria, Chad Gable, and everybody, they had those segments, but they didn't touch upon the luchador problem aspect of it. And I'm still curious what that is going to be. But now that they didn't talk about it at all, I'm wondering if maybe their plans fell through, or maybe they decided to abandon that story.
I thought I told you that they did a digital exclusive. I feel like we talked about this on the Tuesday pod, that they did a digital exclusive where he was just like, yeah, I'll help you take care of your luchador problem. It was kind of like a rehash of what they did last week. But that ball is still in the air.
I have no more theories about it still. It's total up in the air as far as that's concerned for me. I'm like, all right, we'll see. We will wrap back around on WWE when we get our last call predictions for the Royal Rumble stuff. But I want to talk a little bit about AEW and talk about how this episode of Dynamite this week was so uneventful and so, like, why did I watch this in a way that annoyed the hell out of me?
Yeah, you seemed really bothered by Wednesday's show.
I'm not the only one either. I've seen a lot of people reacting to that with the same basic idea of, like, nothing happened on this show. Like, we had, for instance, Will Ospreay starts off in a match with Brian Cage. They get attacked by the Don Callis family. It's the same thing that we had seen before. It's a very WWE, like, repeat, rinse, repeat kind of thing. It's like, I don't like that. I don't like it when WWE does it. I don't like it when AEW does it. We get it. The Don Callis family beat them down. Nothing changes there. Renee goes, hey, I want to talk to Swerve, and Paige comes out of his room, and I'm like, oh, cool, we're getting something. Maybe they're going to have, like, something going on there, and, that's one of the most interesting things that happens. But that's all they do for it, because then Renee's like, well, then can I ask you about Christopher Daniels? And he's like, no. And then MJF is there, and she's like, well, can I talk to you? And he's like, not really. And then later on, she talks to Ricochet, and he goes, yeah, I don't want to talk to you. I'm going to talk to you on Collision. Like, you didn't need 3 segments tonight of 4 segments of Renee being like, I can't do my job. And Mariah May going, oh, this Tony Storm thing is exactly the way that we've been saying that it is. And then Tony Storm being like, haha, I'm actually still timeless Tony Storm, and I will talk about it again. And it's like, motherfucker, how much talking is on AEW now? The whole point is that you're not supposed to do the WWE things that we don't like to do. And if you're going to do it for a purpose. Don't have, like, all right, Hobbs can't do anything, so let's have him say, well, we'll do another thing later on. And Jeff Jarrett loses to Claudio so that MJF could say, told you so. Okay. And then, the Vendetta's upset at Harley Cameron for the thing. I don't really care about that either, but, like, at least that sets up a match. Mercedes Moné retains over Yuka Sakazaki. I'm like, yeah, did anybody think she was going to win? That's the big main event, and it just ends with, like, all right, well, she wins. See ya. This felt like such a do-nothing, go-nowhere show to me.
Okay, so I'll just say little bits and pieces. Mercedes main eventing was weird to me, but then I found out that was, like, her first main event ever in AEW. So maybe that was just a nice little box they wanted to check. Match was fine. but it wasn't anything crazy special. Yeah, I don't like that Moxley had to help Claudio beat Jeff Jarrett, and I'm a fan of Jeff Jarrett, but that felt weird to me. And yeah, lots of talking on this show. But that's because they want Saturday to be the big show, not Paul White.
Which is weird, because if they want Saturday's Collision to be the big show, they taped it in advance. And that historically doesn't do super well. And we have Collision spoilers for everybody that's interested in that. You can go on, run it up on the Ring Report and the Wrestling News or whatever. I probably should have put it up on Smark. I completely forgot about it. And honestly, like, a lot of that just looks like a pretty standard show to me. Like, they have a Mid-South street fight. That sounds kind of interesting. And all reports seem to be like, that's the match to go watch. But, like, should I really go nuts for the Learning Tree against the Outrunners? And Roosh against Max Caster? The patriarchy thing is just, okay, it's that standard WWE booking. You go tag team match with people in stable. That's nothing new. And Timeless Tony Storm cuts a promo about how she's Timeless Tony Storm. Okay. I feel like probably the one match we should watch on Collision is that Mid-South street fight. And even then, that's assuming that it's as good as it would be potentially in one match out of a 2-hour show again. Not feeling it. Callum, tell me how you disagree.
I would say I entirely disagree. I don't think Dynamite was particularly good this week, but I'm basically going to say what I would typically say in this situation, which is way you're describing AEW is how I would describe any episode of Raw or SmackDown for the past 5 years or so.
Probably, yeah. That's
in that you don't care about AEW, and so you're not interested in anything they're doing. I don't care about WWE, so I'm not interested in anything they're doing. And we both take the same attitudes to it. I think people are pretty much sick of us like talking about those shows because we don't care about them. So, so I don't think people are that interested in just hearing us say like, oh yeah, I'm not super into what they're doing right now. Yeah, we know you've been saying it for the last 2 or 3 years. So we can just we can be past that point.
Did you like this episode of Dynamite?
No, I didn't. But that's also a case of like, I think that with my own sort of like investment, I can say like, I don't think this is like never like just completely out of your way and miss this episode. I don't subscribe to the theory that every show needs to have loads of storyline advancement or development and along those lines. We have matches lined up for Collision, so there's going to be progression in that regard. I tune in to watch good matches. That's always been my main proviso thing. I saw Will Ospreay versus Brian Cage. They had a very good opening match. I saw Mercedes Moné and Yuka Sakazaki. I thought they had a good main event. Ricochet against AR Fox was a good match as well. So as I say, I'm not saying that it was a good episode because it's still filled with this Death Riders bullshit and Jeff Jarrett, which I just don't want to have on my screen at this point in time. Just move on. It's like one of the worst things they're doing right now. Like everything associated with like the Death Riders right now is just turn off the TV stuff for me. So yeah, as I say, that thing kind of pulls it down. As I say, there wasn't a huge amount of progression. There was a significant amount of talking on the show, which I'm not super keen on, especially considering the fact that Collision was a much more wrestling orientated, and because it was based in Jacksonville and it had different arena set up, it felt like a nice different vibe to that show. Like that was probably one of the better Collisions they've done in a long time. And outside of one segment, which I can talk about afterwards, which is getting tons and tons of praise, which is absolute bullshit. But
which segment are you talking about?
It's the Mariah May Tony Storm segment. Yeah. Because that was crap. Like that was a terrible segment, and people that think that it was good just don't know what storytelling is. because at the end of the day, like the whole segment was built around the fact that okay, Tony Storm's going to reveal that she's Timeless Tony. So she revealed that she's Timeless Tony again after getting her ass kicked by Mariah May, and then just standing there and saying that I'm Timeless Tony.
See,
surely that's supposed to be the way that story works. If you are a good wrestling writer, is that Tony Storm comes back and she is feigning having amnesia and being the old Tony Storm again. And so then you spend the next couple of months. Let's say she's come back in when she came back around about October time. So she comes back in October, and you've got until February to do the Grand Slam Australia show. So you've got that 4-month block. So what you do, you have to do it slightly abridged. It's still probably not as long as they want to do it, but again, kind of want to move on from this feud in general anyway, so keep it in that little parameter. So the whole idea is that Toni Storm comes in and she talks about how great Mariah May is, and she wants to get on the good side of Mariah May, who Mariah May is obviously initially skeptical because it's Toni Storm, and so thinks she's just playing her. But then eventually Toni Storm does enough things, or helps Mariah May out enough, or shows enough, I guess,
dedication.
Yeah, dedication to the role, as she says, to prove to Mariah May that she thinks that, okay, she does have amnesia, she doesn't remember anything that we went through, I can use this to my advantage. And then Toni Storm does what Mariah May did to her, and so like beats the shit out of her, bloodies her up, and says, that was my greatest performance, I'm now going to kick your ass and take my title back at Grand Slam Australia. And that's how you really build up the anticipation feud. What they did was they just had Toni Storm be the old Toni Storm, really not interact with Mariah May at all for the entire time. Then she wins the Casino Gauntlet match to fluke her way into the match with Mariah May, have one promo segment where Mariah May kicks her ass, and then she just takes off her gear and reveals that she's Timeless Tony still. Like, it's utterly crap.
It's like you said, it's trying to skip a lot of things.
Yeah, well, it's literally they took like 3-4 months worth of storylines and crammed it into one 15-minute segment. And it's like Mariah May didn't get any of her comeuppance, and she showed on this episode of Dynamite, she's not like she's scared of Toni Storm now that she's Timeless Tony again, because she beat Timeless Toni Storm. So it's not like she got, like, Toni Storm got one over on her, or like led her into a false sense of security and then revealed herself and came back to seek revenge. No, she's just, she just decided to play act as her old gimmick for a little while and then just turn into Toni Storm. It was like, that was such a bad WWE, like the very old, like 10 year WWE approach of doing, which essentially, okay, we're just going to do this for a little while so we can have just a big moment where she just changes back to Timeless Tony. Not actually think about the general story or how that fits into it. We're just going to have, the video clip, what we can show in the video package leading up to the match, that she transformed back into Timeless Tony. Which is so not what the old AEW was about.
I want to piggyback off something you said, but first I want to talk about that segment myself and say the only way that I would have salvaged that is by saying Mariah hit her in the head too many times, and then she realizes she's Timeless Toni Storm. But they didn't do that. They just seemed to make it, as you guys have said, like, okay, it was all a ruse. But if it was all a ruse, then what you do is you come out and you deck Mariah in the face. You don't
smash a bottle of champagne over her. Or
you don't let her beat the shit out of you, and then go, yeah, what makes you think I've forgotten?
A ruse is not a ruse when nothing happens. Like, they're like, I got you with what? She won a match legitimately to get in there. So the ruse was,
and I've seen a lot.
I'm going to pretend to be the old me until I decide to not do that anymore. Like, the old writing rule that they always say where they go, show, don't tell. And a character should be like, do some kind of an action so that you could see that they're upset rather than blurting out a line that says, I'm upset. If you look at this story and you really ask, like, what happened in there, and if Tony Khan was honest, he would go, well, we brought her back and she wasn't Timeless Toni Storm, and then she was. And you'd be like, and why? And he'd go, well, because she said it. Like, okay, well, yeah.
Well, like Callum says, this has gotten a lot of praise. Like, a lot of, like, oh my god, this is the best thing I've ever seen. Okay. Look, wrestling is subjective, yada yada. But, like, alright, that's one for the memory bank. That this is making a lot of people feel like it's the best thing they've ever seen. But now I want to piggyback off what Callum said about the old AEW, because there was also a close-up segment with Renee Paquette interviewing the Death Riders. And one of the main lines that came out of this, and Tony laughs because he knows where I'm going, is Jon Moxley said, "Maybe stop asking questions and enjoy the ride."
Yep.
That's not good. We're now entering AEW Let It Play Out era. That's not good.
It's not good for anybody. I hated it when The Rock said it. I hate it when fans are apologetic and they go, just shut up and enjoy whatever. And that's not even just like AEW or WWE. That's across the board.
And that's any entertainment thing.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of like, stop thinking and just let us do whatever.
Just blindly enjoy everything of something or you're not a good fan. That's not how that works. I can flat out say the MCU after Endgame has been a fucking mess. And I love the MCU. They didn't know what the fuck they were doing. And for anybody that had been saying from the very beginning of that, oh, just let it play out. We have the information about what this was going to play out to right now with the Kang Dynasty script leaking and everything. They didn't know what the fuck they were doing. And it wouldn't have paid off. And that happens. Like, people have to be acknowledging that just because the story ends doesn't mean that it's going to end well. And just because you aren't enjoying the whole lead up to the finale, even if they end up executing the finale, doesn't mean that that's a good story. It's the same as how, it can end poorly and it can ruin the whole thing too. Look at Star Wars as another example. I walked out of The Force Awakens going, I don't think they have any idea what they're doing, and I didn't like this. And for years I was told, you got to wait until the next two movies come out. And the next two movies come out and everybody goes, oh, well, that sucked. And it's like, yeah, I know. Like, it's all the writing on the wall. So when you say, shut up and just enjoy the ride, you're telling people that aren't enjoying the ride mostly to just shut up. And you're telling other people that are like willing to be like, oh, okay, well, I don't know where this is going. I'm not enjoying it, but you're basically doing the gaslighting of like, if you just ignore your feelings about this, maybe you'll eventually forget about it. Or maybe you'll eventually just slowly accept that this is like lesser and lesser and lesser. Frog in a pan scenario. But I didn't like the Elite story. I haven't been liking the Death Rider story. And Jon Moxley telling me, I don't like that you don't like this is not going to convince me otherwise. If anything, that's going to make me go, oh shit, do they not have any idea where they're going either? Or do they just think, man, people are going to pop when Darby Allin or so-and-so beats Moxley and it's all going to be, wasn't it so worth it that Darby Allin won the title? No. I still think Cody should have probably beaten Roman last WrestleMania 39 instead of WrestleMania 40, for that matter.
You'll never change my mind on that.
So it's like, was it worth it? I don't think so necessarily. It could be
and
argued.
By the way, not saying that it might not have been worth it does not mean that what we got was bad.
Yeah.
What we got was good. Still should have happened the other way. I just wanted to point that out because I do feel like we are more and more firmly in okay, there's no going back to what AEW was and felt like it could be forever.
I'm disappointed in that too, because I feel like I was more excited about AEW when it felt more like, I don't want to say like a rogue promotion, but like, because that kind of gets the implication that it's like, oh, you like rooting for the underdog, and that's the only thing is, the same as like, Dolph Ziggler is only cool if he's not champion or something. But like, I liked when they took more chances, and I liked when they did things differently, and like, it seems like they're borrowing a little bit too much from the things that happen in WWE that I don't even like in WWE, and then to have a line like that go out there specifically where it's like, all right, there's certain phrases that kind of seem to hover around where people just go, we're going to adopt this going forward. Like, I don't know, like, whoever it was that first said the line about John Cena being, it doesn't matter if you're booed or cheered as long as they're making noise. That just became like a go-to corporate speak thing. And I don't like the idea of Moxley being like, just enjoy the ride, and be like, no, don't start doing just enjoy the ride for everything.
And so the issues of AEW are clear for most people to see. It's just like Tony Khan just hasn't addressed them, which is obviously a problem. But the issues are, and it's been true for like at least a year and a half, if not slightly longer, pretty much since the MJF title reign. And I'm not blaming MJF for this thing, it's just that there are just too many people in that company and in the like creative positions that have been influenced from the past X number of years of WWE. And while WWE has actually evolved and changed their presentation and format slightly in the last 3 to 5 years, AEW has then somewhat reverted back to what WWE was prior to that evolution in many ways. And so they need to go back to what they were, which was to try and, you know, their promise like to change the world and to do things differently. And they still do aspects of things that are different than what WWE will do, but there's too much now that's been brought in that's akin to the very like templated old approach of doing it, which just, you know, even moments based storytelling or like fly by the seat of your pants booking and that kind of approach, which just isn't working anymore. And as I say, there probably needs to be more serious conversations and more like hard decisions made now in order to, as I say, I don't know necessarily what we'll do. I wouldn't want to be in Tony Khan's position to do this as well, but he has to, like, if he wants to stop the rot from taking too much and to present more consistently good shows than, you know, I would say bad shows, but like more mediocre shows, then he needs to start taking actions regarding that, because there are plenty of things that need to change before they can progress forward. As I say, you know, it wasn't the greatest episode of Dynamite, but I don't think it was necessarily as terrible as some people were making it out to be.
I've seen worse episodes of television, that's for sure. Like, this wasn't like, the matches weren't bad and everything. I just felt like I got like midway through the show and I was just like, God damn, like nothing's really actually happening. And then by the time it ended, I was like, if you missed this episode, you didn't miss anything. You know,
it was an uneventful show. But then again, it's one of those things like, I still don't take the approach of like, oh, this I didn't miss anything because, oh, I still wouldn't have seen that Brian Cage Will Ospreay match, or I still wouldn't have seen Yuka Sakazaki versus Mercedes Moné. So I'd say they weren't the greatest matches of all time, but they were still fun enough to watch. I could see Will Ospreay win with another Styles Clash, and continue to fuel my hopes that AJ Styles goes over to AEW for at least 1 year.
I would love it. I would love if AJ Styles just has a banger year anywhere right now. I want AJ Styles healthy.
I'm still kind of hoping that he ends up popping up at the Royal Rumble, even though I don't really necessarily 100% trust in it.
Well, there's a solid. There's two strong outlets that are saying WWE is hopeful that he'll be at the Rumble.
The hopeful side of it is that, like, we didn't say that he will. We're just saying,
exactly.
You know, these people were spotted in the area, kind of a thing. Well, that is the last thing for us to talk about here. Now, we already did our predictions, like separate podcast about the Royal Rumble and all, but I am curious to get, you know, we have the Royal Rumble predictions contest going on right now, so I want to remind everybody about that. Again, you know, we are going to have the poll shut off at 4 p.m. tomorrow, and you can edit in the meantime, you know, vote on who you got and everything, but I do want to get some last call predictions, and I want to get Callum's thoughts on the Royal Rumble since he wasn't on the predictions side of it. I haven't changed my perspective about a whole lot from what I had talked about. I still think that a lot of the same people are kind of in the mix of the same ideas. The only thing is, I don't remember if I mentioned Io Sky being another pick for the Iron Woman this year. I think that's something I might have had an oversight for, but she's kind of hovering around that spot for me. I'm a little bit more likely now to lean towards probably having a few legends showing up than I did before. Like I mentioned Nikki Bella. I mentioned that I could see there being like some call-up stuff that if you want to throw in like a Jada Parker or whatever. We now know some of those people have been spotted in Indianapolis. I am going to say most of my picks are staying exactly the same as they were. I'm still leaning towards Seth Rollins and Charlotte Flair. Who do you think is going to be in these kind of prominent spots and everything, Cal?
I think just for the men's and women's Rumble matches, I think like for me it's down to two on both sides of things. I think it's either John Cena or Seth Rollins for the men's, and it's Charlotte Flair or Becky Lynch for the women's.
Kind of how I have it down to, yeah.
I would be just bewildered if they went with someone else. You know, not in a necessarily a bad way, but like, cause it could be, oh, that's more interesting. But I think that those are the four absolute locks in for me.
Do you have a certain, like, you think if Cena wins, he's going to challenge Cody or Gunther? Or, you know?
Well, yes, if Cena wins, he's fighting Cody, and if Seth wins, he's fighting Gunther, because I think those matches will just happen anyway at Mania, so.
And what about Flair Stratton and Becky Rhea?
Yeah, and again, I think that there's a good chance that both those matches just end up happening anyway.
Yeah. Who do you got for your most eliminations, Iron Man, shortest time kind of thing?
I guess I haven't really given it too much thought, if I'm honest. Most eliminations I probably would end up going with maybe Roman. I guess it depends. Actually, to be fair, Roman will probably come out 30, so probably not him, actually. Maybe then go Bron Breakker or Jacob Fatu. It depends if Jacob Fatu's in the match, but in which case then I'll go Bron Breakker because he's the one that's already determined for the men's. Iron Man for the men's, I'd probably go with... I could see Seth lasting a long time. Shortest... there's nothing particularly obvious or one that's going to probably go out super quickly, so maybe the Miz or something.
Miz was my pick originally until I thought about the idea about Kofi.
Oh yeah, this shitty storyline. It's like they started off so well and now they're just, you know, jobbers again. It's like, what was the point? Like surely they should at least be, you know, winning matches as part of this whole story as well. But you know, that's fine.
Have they had a tag match yet?
No, they've just lost in singles matches. Yeah, singles matches. Rey Mysterio,
which is strange.
So that's one of the bad things with the whole idea of, well, you know, let's just drag things out, let things play out. They could have gone on a tag team tear after the Big E thing. And I think it's fun that everybody's booing them, sure, but like, have them do stuff.
Have them even win some of those matches sometimes too, you know? I mean, if you want to eventually build to the idea about them possibly winning the tag titles at Mania or something like that, don't have them lose in the meantime. Unless this is like the whole game plan is they still need to go and do some kind of like a meaner streak and then, you know, but even then I don't think that's the best way of executing that storyline.
For like the women's stuff, I'd say Iron Woman, you're probably looking at, I see someone like either Lyra or Io doing that. I think most eliminations, Nia Jax. I think shortest time, which would be maybe a bit surprising, is Jade Cargill.
Now, you think is that for a particular reason? It's going to be one of those years where like she goes after somebody that had attacked her and she like clotheslines her and goes over the rope at the same time or something?
Something along those lines. I think that, Bianca and Naomi will be in the ring and be like working together well as tag team, and Jade Cargill will come out and go straight for Naomi, and will like quickly, and Bianca will be kind of a bit bewildered about that thing, or at least feign being bewildered at that thing, and she goes and quickly dispatches of Naomi, but then Bianca tosses Jade out immediately. So that's kind of the route I see that happening.
A lot of people are saying that they think that it's Naomi. I never really got that much of an impression for it, but because I can understand. Pay attention
during the shows. Well, who was the one person that's benefited from Jade Cargill being?
It makes sense, but like I don't know, for some reason I keep thinking that that's a red herring.
It could be, but
it's too obvious to me, which could just be me psyching myself out, you know.
Well, the thing is, like, it's too obvious that it's Naomi, but like a lot of Triple H's booking is super obvious anyway.
True,
which is fine, you know, because that's logical. But it's also a sense of it, because if he went with the route of it's Bianca Belair, I still go back to what the incident was where Jade was taken out on the car and Bianca just walked out in a match where she could have qualified for the United States Championship, and thinking, why would she surrender a chance to become United States Champion because she took out Jade Cargill and knows it. So if that ends up being the case, then that's completely illogical, but people won't care because they'll just be wanting to see the match. So, you know.
They won't even address that at all. That'll just be, we don't show that footage in the clips. We don't talk about that. It's just a gap in logic that, you know, ignore the plot hole and go around it. Yeah, for sure.
But I'll keep bringing it up because it's a sign that
should.
It's a sign that there are no good pro wrestling bookers right now. So
Booker T. I mean, he's a good booker.
No, he's not. No.
I mean, I don't know about ROH, or ROW, but yeah, if I'm gonna be praising any booker, it's gonna be the guy that phones it in on every NXT episode.
I thought that was Corey Graves now.
Apparently he's like mad at him for that, which I'm curious about that too. But
who's mad at who?
Booker's mad at Corey.
No, it seems like everyone's mad at Corey right now, isn't it?
Yeah. But Booker on his most recent podcast or something, he had said something along the lines of like, "We're not cool. We didn't talk about it yet," or something.
Damn.
So I guess he probably took that as like an insult, which is like, yeah, like I could see that. And he's probably like, you haven't apologized to me and Vic or, somebody. But then again, I don't want to put words in his mouth. But shout out to Booker T for completely ruining the idea for me of like, if somebody says no bread, I immediately just go no water, just meat. Any changes to your predictions, Rob?
No, the only thing I will say is that you brought up a good idea where the favor could be enacted in that Flair 92 style. And I'm willing to totally admit we probably thought way too much about it, and they're probably just going to go with Cena or something. But I like that ending, and I still think that Punk's coming out on top here, unless he gets injured again.
You gotta hope that that's not the case.
I hate that I had to say that every single time the man wrestles.
But it's true. I mean, hey, the guy has a history of this now, so you have to be kind of worried about that. We, of course, will be having live coverage for the Royal Rumble tomorrow. I'll have actually 3 things of live coverage going on at the same time with EWN, Ring Report, and Smark Moment. I'll also be updating the statistics page as much as I can. I'll also be updating the heel and face index of the lineup of the Royal Rumble entrants. I'll also be trying to update the predictions contest. I am almost certain it's going to be too hard for me to sort out all the math of the Royal Rumble predictions contest, because it's, we have like 50 some people that have filled that out, and then it's the number 1 to 30 for each one, and it's not as easy as just saying, did you get that one right? Because there's the proximity picks of like, if you say R-Truth is number 4 and he's number 3 or number 5, then you get lesser points. So that might have to be a separate thing. I might have to just do that on like, say, Sunday or whatever, then update everybody on like an extra thing, record on Monday or whatever. But any of the Royal Rumble related stuff, find it on smark@moment.com, and we will be back around for the Royal Rumble post show immediately following. So hit those bells and get those emails set up. Make sure that you join us for that. Make sure that you chat it up on the Discord server throughout the Royal Rumble. I mean, that's something that I think a lot of people would be interested in doing. Maybe even have like a little watch along party if anybody wants to host that. And stay tuned to everything else that you can see on the link tree and on everything else that you normally should find. smark@moment.com, fanboysanonymous.com, all that stuff, amangotree.com. Like, follow, share, favorite, subscribe to those. I'm at Tony Mango on a lot of them. Make sure that you're following Rob and Callum.
Yep, follow me everywhere at Dude Felice. Check out my work on Fightful. Check out Fightful. Sean's in town for the Rumble. I'm sure there'll be plenty of scoops, threads, and lots of exciting stuff going on there. This is, as we mentioned several times on Tuesday, one of the most fun events of the year, which is just sad because the year just started. And I at least think by the end of it, we'll all be excited for Mania, hopefully.
Not me, but but you can check my stuff out over on Twitter and Blue Sky at Wigmeister14. You can follow the power rankings to check out the how I'm ranking the WWE superstars based on their previous week's performances. That'll be the one just prior to the Royal Rumble. So the following one next week will be based on who did win the Royal Rumble. I imagine they'll be quite near the top of the list for next week's ones. But follow that there at the power rankings. And then you can also check out the Fantasy League, because the Royal Rumble is a very big event for the Fantasy League in terms of big points being able to score for whoever ends up winning both the Rumble matches. So make sure you stick along to see how the Royal Rumble affects the point totals by the end of the night. There'll also be some based on our predictions. That'll be dependent on who gets trades, who gets taken off of people's teams, who gets to make certain decisions about doubling up points. So yeah, there's plenty of stuff that this Royal Rumble influence, and it's the first big remaining show on the road to WrestleMania. So yeah, check all that stuff out at the Fantasy League through Smark at the moment, or at wwefantasyleague.com.
Alrighty, everybody, that's going to do us in. So thank you for all of your support. Thank you for listening to this episode. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for any of the donations on that front. All that good stuff. It's greatly, greatly appreciated. Adios for now, though. This has been another Smark Out moment, and we're being counted out.